Welcome to Healing Our Relationships, the podcast. I'm Marisa, healer, transformation guide, and someone who has spent the last 17 years coming home to herself. This podcast was born from a powerful circle I lead each month, where women gather live on Zoom to unearth their codependent patterns, reclaim their truth, and return home to themselves. Here, I bring these same teachings and transmissions to you. Each episode, I'll help you understand what codependency actually is, not in a clinical or shame-based way, but through the lens of spiritual healing and personal empowerment. We'll explore the real impact these patterns have on your nervous system, your relationships, your sense of self, and your spirit. I'll offer grounded tools, guided inquiries, perception shifts, and an invitation to heal in community, not just alone. This is a space for deep truth-telling, for remembering who you are beneath the stories and the shape-shifting, and for walking each other home. You don't have to do this perfectly. You just have to begin. So let's get started. Welcome back, my friends. I hope you enjoyed our first guest podcast episode with Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. It was so wonderful to have him. And the episode before that was on boundaries. And I said, hey, I'm going to get you this amazing tool, and I'm going to do another episode specifically on this tool that really, really helped me in my early codependency recovery. And I'm bringing that to you today. So I'm sorry that you had to wait an episode, but I've been really looking forward to this because when I first hit a bottom inside of codependency, the most painful part about it was that I didn't know what was mine and what was my partner's. I actually felt crazy. And so many women come to me at the beginning of this work and they feel the same thing. Like, am I being gaslit? Is this real? Am I being insecure? Am I making this up? And it is so disorienting. It's so confusing. And I needed to have clear clarity on what is a codependent pattern and what is a pattern that is inviting me to live in a boundaried place and in an authentic place. I did find the literature of Codependence Anonymous. I did find that literature to be incredibly powerful and helpful. It was so clear. And I've done a lot of different 12-step recovery programs, non-12-step programs. If anything, I typically steer away from things that feel too rigid or that aren't trauma-informed. Over the last 17 years of recovery, I've really expanded my mind. But when I find something that I feel really works, I like to share it. And so what I'm going to go over with you today is actually a PDF from the CODA program, and it's called Codependency and Recovery, The Differences. And this is a PDF that you can download straight from coda.org. It's also something you could Google, and it would probably show up right away. I will put a link in the podcast bio this episode so you can snag it. So before we dive in, I always invite you, have an open mind, have an open heart, take what you want, leave what you don't. Essentially, what this list is a list of new agreements if you choose to make an agreement with yourself. And inside of each of these, as an agreement, is a practice. And that is where we begin to clock, am I shape-shifting for this person? Am I changing myself out of fear? Am I afraid of this person's anger, so I'm not setting a boundary? These are very clear ways that invite practice to authenticity and change. So I really invite you to be here and to listen. And I'm going to be giving examples of these along the way, but I am just going to read these to you and just see how they land and which ones you feel like, okay, these are ones that are very clear behaviors. So we'll start with the first one. In codependency, my good feelings stem from you liking me. In recovery, my good feelings stem from me liking me. So this is a big one for people. How they feel about themselves is contingent upon how someone outside of them feels about them. This was part of my codependency. I didn't feel grounded enough in who I was, secure enough in who I was. So it was easy for you to shake me off my foundation. So if you find yourself in a situation or a social situation and you don't feel likable, lovable, you're getting enough attention, And so you immediately go into this place of, I got to change to get attention, or my night is ruined and I'm miserable because I don't think I'm getting the attention that I need, or I don't feel like I'm being liked, or I don't feel like I fit in, which that's very human, right? It's very normal. As children, that's very normal. We don't fit in, we get kicked out of the club, we cry. But as adults, we're really leaning in to liking and loving ourselves and being comfortable and confident with ourselves. So the tool in that is noticing, is this a pattern of behavior? Is how I feel about myself contingent upon how the person in front of me feels? If that is yes, then the recovery is turning inwards and working on the relationship to self. It is not leaving that space as a victim, judging the other person, getting angry, judging ourselves, hating who we are. This is a longer journey of coming into a place of deep love and respect for who you are and trusting who you are. This is where the 4 agreements really help, because one of the agreements is don't make assumptions. And a lot of times you assume someone doesn't like you, someone isn't receiving you the way you want, and you make that assumption and it hurts, and then you leave that situation, you ruminate, you react to it. In my recovery process of healing, even before codependency, I really had to come to a place to believe that if somebody doesn't like me, it's okay. We talk about this, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., we talk about this in the podcast from last week, that everybody sees life from their own perspective. And I don't have to be lovable and liked by everyone. And so this one think of this as a big overarching recovery process. We always say the most important relationship is the one with yourself, and that's what we're working on. So you're working on getting from a place in your life where how you feel about yourself is really reflective of your own relationship to yourself. Okay, the next one. In codependency, your struggle affects my serenity, my inner peace. In recovery, your struggle matters because I care about you, but it does not control how I feel about myself. So an example of this, you're having a great day, everything's wonderful, your partner comes home, your roommate comes home, your friend comes home, whoever it is, and they're having a horrible day, they're struggling, all their energy has blown out your happy day container, and suddenly you shift to match them. You begin to take on their struggle. You feel responsible or that you have to fix it. Or you're hurt. You're hurt because they're maybe taking their struggle out on you. And then now your beautiful, fun day is turning into like a day where you're going to match their energy and be like, well, if you're going to be pissed coming home, then I'm going to be pissed. And now I'm resentful at you because you ruined my great day with your bad attitude. In recovery, we care about other people, but it doesn't control how we feel about ourselves. We let other people have bad days. We let other people really go through hard things, and we hold them without this sense of responsibility. You know, this one's actually really painful and tricky in relationships where people have an addict for a mother or a father. I can't tell you how many people I've been in circle with on Thursday night. This was a huge theme actually in our last Thursday night circle, is that a lot of the women have parents who are deep in addiction. And the thing is like, well, I'm just going to let my mom live on the street, or I'm not going to give her money, or I'm not going to do this, or how can I hold boundaries? There are people in our lives where it's really hard to hold boundaries because we love and care about them so much. But it does control how we feel about ourselves when we feel we're responsible. Oh, I'm a bad person if I don't take care of my parent. I'm a bad person if I don't give my brother money, even though I know he's going to go buy dope. Like, it doesn't even have to be an addict in your life. It could be somebody in your life who's constantly struggling, and you've taken it on. You feel responsibility. It's scary to set boundaries, and it controls how you feel about yourself, and it controls how you're in relationship to yourself, and their energy becomes yours. So in recovery, when someone else is struggling, we have to find the courage to let them hold themselves. It doesn't mean that we can't choose what boundaries we want to put into place. But at some point, we enable. And at some point, we have to take responsibility for the pain and suffering that's in our lives when we begin caretaking for people that are refusing to care for themselves. And this is where codependency recovery gets real tricky. It's not black and white. But if you're keeping on top of mind this healthy boundary of your struggle matters to me, but it doesn't control how I feel about myself. When you hold that knowing, you begin to have more compassion for yourself. You begin to go, okay, this feels true. This feels safe. You have to understand this recovery process, and we're going to have a therapist, a licensed therapist on the show who specializes in codependency recovery, which I am super thrilled about because, as all of you know, this is really just based on my own experience of healing and helping other women heal through working with Coda, through doing all these other practices that I do. I'm really looking forward to her coming and really being able to speak to some of the things that I dance around a little bit more because I really respect therapy and I really respect trauma. And so I'm really excited because one of the things I want to talk to her about is how the recovery process for this is like these micro moments. It's all of these moments where we choose awareness and compassion and courage, and they all begin to add up. It's not a linear straight line. It's not like, oh, I have an alcohol addiction. I'm stopping drinking. I'm just not going to drink. We can't stop being in relationship. I would compare it more to like food addiction because we need to eat, we need food, but when we have a food addiction, if we're binging or purging or overeating, if we have that type of food addiction, we still have to eat. And that's kind of how codependency is that we need to be in relationship. We want to be in relationship. What I'm asking you to be curious about is if other people's struggle affects your serenity. If you can compassionately observe and notice how much of your serenity is affected by other people, and where you can start setting a healthy boundary that feels good to you, where you keep yourself rooted in your own happiness, in your own groundedness. And it's all these little micro moments that are going to help you feel more trusting of yourself and more safe to set these boundaries that have been so hard for so long. Okay, in codependency, my mental attention is focused on pleasing you. In recovery, I'm free to please me, even when it may not please you. Anxious attached people focus often on pleasing someone else to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel affirmed. What do they need? What do they want? Oh, they seem upset about that. Now I'm anxious. How can I manipulate and manage the whole situation to make sure that other person's pleased with me? We see this a lot when we're trying to be perfect for somebody. We might, in this pattern, not choose what we want to do, where we want to go, what piece of art we want to buy for the wall, what trip we want to go on, what TV show we want to watch. We might just not even please ourselves because we're so afraid of the other person getting upset or not liking it. So the tool is noticing, am I constantly making sure that someone else is okay? Do I have this hypervigilance to make sure that my partner's pleased all the time? And where can I begin to take action to please me even when it doesn't please the other person? You will know intuitively, and there are tiny changes in here. It can be very small. Like my partner kind of always had to control the TV. Like if he didn't like, well, this was the story I had. He always chose what we watched. Well, he always chose what we watched because I didn't like picking something and having him make a comment about it, or he put his phone down so he wasn't present or whatever thing. So I was not choosing what I wanted to watch on television for years. That's a tiny change, though, that makes a big difference. Now, if I want to watch a show, I go upstairs and I watch a show, and he can go downstairs on his laptop and watch something. Why am I the one always leaving the room to go watch something? Remember, too, this doesn't have to just be romantic relationships. This can be at work. This could be in your friendships. You know, a lot of times somebody's like, I'm super easygoing. I don't really care what we do. But the reality is they just want the other person to be pleased. They're either afraid of picking the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, or somebody else not enjoying it. In a co-creative relationship with anybody in our lives, it's a matter of give and take. And in a co-creative relationship, when we love someone, we want to see them happy, then we want to participate in the things that maybe we don't love, that don't please us. but we care about them and we want to be able to show up. I never gave my partner an opportunity to show up for what pleased me because I just made an assumption that he wasn't going to like it or participate. And so I would go do it on my own. And that's where I'd wall off, back off, go into more of the flight, is that I would just be like, well, I would just completely remove myself. So you can take a look at that. You can think of that throughout this week. Okay, another one. In codependency, I may disguise my feelings, manipulating you to do it my way, manipulating you so that you don't have a reaction. In recovery, I tell the truth about my feelings regardless of the consequence. This is a huge one. I think whether you're anxiously attached or you're more denial control, I don't really think it matters. I think what disguising feelings is a pattern of shape-shifting that so many people struggle with because we're afraid of how the other person's going to react. This can happen a lot in relationships where one partner is more professor, know-it-all archetype, narcissistic tendencies. Like, no matter what I say about my feelings, they're never going to hear me. They're going to defend themselves. They're going to deflect. They're going to gaslight me. Well, of course you don't want to share your feelings. Why bother? You get to a place where you're like, why would I even bother sharing my feelings if it's just going to now become about me being sensitive, me doing something wrong, right? No wonder we do that. In recovery, though, it's where we have to dig deep and have the courage to share how we feel. Guess what? That part starts to get easier. There's 2 parts. I'm going to share how I feel. Part 1. Part 2 is you're not going to like it. You're going to express that dislike to me. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to not take it personally. It's not going to affect me. And you're going to hold your own dislike. And I'm going to set a boundary, whether that's, I don't want to talk about this anymore then, or come back to me when you have a different tone. Or I'm trying to share my feelings with you. Are you available to hear them? No? Okay, well then I'm leaving this situation. There are 2 steps. This is kind of funny because in the beginning, I started to tell the truth about my feelings, and guess what happened? I had more conflict in my life. I had multiple relationships end. And it was funny because I was getting angry. I'm sharing my feelings. I'm being honest, and now you can't handle it? And then one day I was like saying that out loud to someone, like it's probably my sponsor or somebody. And I was like saying that out loud, and I realized, oh, wait a minute. I have to be okay with how somebody feels about my true feelings. And if I'm not being codependent, their struggle with my feelings, let's go back to one of those, their struggle doesn't affect my serenity. So if I'm being honest and I'm stating it clearly, boundaried, and this is just how I feel. If they don't like it, if they get angry, then I have another opportunity to work with a healthy pattern and not let someone being angry, upset, frustrated, judgmental, critical, not letting that cause me to completely collapse on myself. Can I let other people be upset with me? Can I let other people have an experience of me that's negative and perfect? Absolutely. I can now. It's okay. It doesn't scare me at all. Whereas I used to do everything I could in my life to avoid that situation. So this is a really powerful one that I want to invite you to have some awareness around this week. Okay, this is a good one for people who are more control patterned. In codependency, your clothing, your behavior, your appearance, how you act, they are a reflection of me. In recovery, you get to dress, behave, appear as you wish, regardless of how it makes me feel. So a lot of times you'll get with partners that are very controlling, or they're insecure, or they care about what the world thinks. And you'll notice if you've ever been with a partner that kind of criticizes your clothes or what you're wearing or what you're doing, that's a codependent behavior. They're engaging in the codependent behavior of being boundaryless. You are an adult. You get to wear what you want. You get to dress how you want. They don't get to change that for you. Okay? Their codependent pattern is they need to back off and become more boundaried. And unless you ask for their opinion, they don't talk about your clothes. They don't talk about different parts of you because they're just afraid of what other people think. They're being codependent with the world. And then for you in recovery, you dress, behave, appear as you wish, and you get comfortable with that. I had a relationship like this, and this was something that happened quite a bit. And I changed the way I dressed because I didn't want to hear it. It wasn't even because I loved how I was, but I didn't want to hear a comment. I didn't want to hear the disappointment. I didn't want to hear the anxiety. I didn't want to hear that. And so I would just dress according to what was going to give me the least amount of comments. Now I dress however I want. If I'm not matching, this happened recently. We weren't matching going to a wedding, and my partner was like, kind of like, well, we're not matching. And the old me would have been like, oh, I better go change so this person's comfortable with me going to this wedding. And instead, I was like, nope, this is what I'm wearing, a bright red dress today. I don't care if you're wearing brown. This is what I feel like wearing. This is what I had picked out. And I'm not going to be in agony over whether or not I made the wrong choice. And guess what? I showed up to that wedding. I was the only person wearing a red dress. Everybody was wearing tan and brown. And it was very like everybody had a muted color palette. This is how this recovery works. As I started walking in, and suddenly my whole body went into fight or flight. And I got into this story really quickly. It was like, oh my God, maybe he was right. I'm wearing a red dress. Like, it's an outdoor wedding. It's the middle of summer. I saw 2 other people wearing lightly colored red, but I'm in a bright red dress, and I suddenly start to panic. And then that was the first experience that I had. And then the second experience I had was, Marisa, you look great. You're safe. And your dress is fine. We're not gonna go there. Nobody's thinking about you. Everyone's thinking about the bride. It's okay. Like I got to feel that codependency of being scared that I messed up, I screwed up, everybody's looking at me, my partner's embarrassed, like all those stories. And I was able to realize right away, that's a codependent behavior, Marisa. That's not living in love and authenticity for yourself. And that's what these little one-liners I'm sharing with you, these 2-liners have done for me, is it's very clear to me now when I'm in that shape-shifting behavior. And that might seem like a silly example, but the truth is I wouldn't be surprised if I'm the only one has had this experience. And you can put anything there. You can take the red dress out and put anything else there. We have to be confident and comfortable in the choices that we make in our lives and honor the choices that we make in our lives in big macro ways, in small ways, in the ways that we dress. The next one. In codependency, my social circle diminishes as I involve myself with you. In recovery, I hope that you like my friends, but if you don't, I understand. I'm going to have my friends. And I'd even go a step further and say it's important for us to have our own friends that aren't necessarily attached to our partners. I think it's important for us to have our own social circles and hobbies and lives. And in codependency, there's so much enmeshment. I know so many women, especially when we were younger, especially in high school, in our early 20s, as soon as we had a boyfriend, nobody else existed. And because we were all doing it, we kind of couldn't get mad at each other. It was like, well, she's got a boyfriend, so that's what she's doing. Have you ever not made plans because you wanted to see what your person that you're dating was doing? Have you ever been like, oh, I don't know if I can decide until I hear back? Oh, well, my person doesn't really like to do that, so I'm going to say no. Or, oh, can we adjust it? Or I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go because my person won't go with me. Or they want to leave early. Well, if they're going to leave early, then I have to leave early too. When your life becomes about the other person, doing things with them, making sure they're happy, letting them lead, a more love-avoidant, control pattern person is going to be like that. They might get jealous. They might say, hey, I don't want you hanging out with that person. We see a lot of abusive people isolate their partners because they don't want to be around that person, or they don't like your friends, or hey, just hang out at home and sit on the couch with me. And you're afraid if you leave, they'll be upset with you. So you're just going to stay. Also, a lot of people stay real close to their partner because they want to know what they're doing. They're afraid. Well, if I leave, what if they watch porn? If I leave, what if they're scrolling on the internet? If I leave, what are they doing when they go out with their friends if I'm not there? So we really got to check in with ourselves around how often we're spending time with our people, and then what is the intent, like what is the motivation behind that? Do you really want to be sitting on the couch every day watching the show that they love, or watching them play video games? Or are you doing that because you're frightened to leave them alone, because there's a part of you that doesn't know what they're going to be doing, or you feel safer when you're connected? In recovery, we have to have our own lives. We have to have things that are just ours that feel good, communities and relationships. It's nice when they can participate, and if they can't, that's fine too. And you get to decide from a healthy place, do I want to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't like to see my family? Do I want to be in a relationship with somebody who's constantly asking me to stay home? Do I want to be in a relationship with somebody who's constantly out on their own and they never are comfortable just being with me? See, in recovery, we get to make these conscious choices. In codependency, we're trying to control how we feel out of trauma responses. That's where that crazy making feeling of should I stay, should I go, or every moment you're in fight or flight, is this the relationship for me? What I learned from my therapist was in those moments when I'm in that fight or flight, I'm in my adaptive child, I'm in a trauma response. How can I consciously decide if I want to be with this person? In recovery, now that I'm completely healthily detached from my current partner, I have a huge life that he is not intertwined in. And I'm totally okay with that. I'm not going to not make a plan because based on what he's doing. I'm not going to not go away for the weekend because I'm afraid of whatever's going to happen if I'm not here. And those were behaviors that were a part of me in all of my relationships. So really observe with compassion the people in your lives. Maybe it's not even a lover. Maybe it's a friend. Is there someone in your life you feel like, gosh, they really control my environment, or you're just too afraid to have a big life outside of them? And just observe with compassion. Okay, the next one. In codependency, when something needs to be done and no one else is willing to do it, I automatically assume responsibility. I would also add in here, if something needs to be done, I don't care who's willing to do it, I'm going to do it because I need to be in control, because I need it to be done right. And it makes me feel safe. In recovery, we operate from a position of choice. Choice, letting go, trusting when I want to say no and I don't want to take something on, and then asking, am I saying yes because I want to control it? I have known many people who have to control everything, and then they become a victim of over control. They feel like they can't trust that person to make the decision, so they have to do it. I was actually this person in my first marriage. I didn't trust that my partner was going to do it or do it right, and I didn't trust that they could show up for it, and so I literally controlled everything. I controlled so much, and I never gave him an opportunity to step up. And it wasn't in his nature. He was like, well, she's going to do it. She's going to do it. And then I would get resentful that the contribution wasn't there. So we've really got to check in on what we say yes and no to and our motivation, so we don't start to get resentful at all these other people for not showing up. This happens a lot in family dynamics. If you have a brother or sister or a person in your family, they're not helping, they're not doing anything, so I better do it. And you got so used to that. And maybe you're right, to be honest. Maybe it's like, well, Marisa, they're not going to do it. I have to do it. And that's where we really got to check in. Do you have to do it? Do you feel like you have to do it? And are there other options that allow for more co-creation? Can you allow consequences to happen and other people to be responsible for those consequences? Can you allow that discomfort and not take it on and take responsibility for the feelings of the consequences? So as you move through your week, I want you to see your yes and your no. Am I saying yes out of control? Am I saying yes because I'll be the martyr and I'll go ahead and do it? And we look with compassion. Martyr is an archetype. Victim is an archetype. It's not a bad word. We all carry that archetype. So just observe with compassion if you're honoring your yes and your no. And even like, what does it feel like? You might not know because you might be saying yes or appeasing or controlling for so long. Okay, another one here. In codependency, I use giving away as a way to feel safe in relationship. In recovery, I can still give because pleasing you pleases me. I love to give, but I also want to receive as well. And two-way connection is out of love and desire, and it has nothing to do with safety and fear. Okay, let me say that again. In codependency, when we give gifts, spend money, give ourselves wholly as a way to feel safe because we are scared of abandonment or not being enough, that is codependency. When we give because we love to give, because we have a desire to give. And we do that from a place of love for someone else and love for ourselves. That has nothing to do with safety or fear. That is just genuine, authentic connection. An over-giver, somebody who constantly self-abandons their own self-care, their own lives, what they need to do for themselves, and they're constantly giving away because they're afraid of what the other person's going to say or do, or it's not going to get done, or afraid the person's going to get mad. That person who takes is often pretty unboundaried in the sense that they will jump your wall and they will take whatever they want. And so you've got to build up that healthy gate. And if you're a wall jumper, and you're taking, then you really got to check in. If taking is a way for you to feel safe, because if you give, what if you're rejected? What if you put in the energy and it's not received? So two-way connection, this is something I want you to really lock in, okay? When you're connecting with people throughout the day, when is it coming from love and when is it coming from safety and fear? And just really try to be in a place of compassionate awareness. This PDF I'm reading from, I printed this baby. I printed this. I had it on my desk. I had a PDF on my phone, and it was so orienting. Every day, I feel like I would maybe pick one thing, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to be mindful about today. This is what I'm going to work on. And so I really want to invite you to read this, get your eyeballs on it, okay? And really let it sink in. This document has 20 different scenarios. I don't have time to move through all of them today. So I'm picking out the ones that I feel like are pretty expansive to a lot of what we've already talked about and a lot of what is just common for humans in general, and then those of us who are struggling in our relationship to ourselves and others. But there's a lot more here for you. And I think when you get your eyes on it, it drops in a little bit differently as well. Okay, the last one I'm going to go over for today. In codependency, my fear of your rejection determines what I say or do. In recovery, my commitment, okay, I'm going to shift this one. This is an important one. In the PDF, it says, in recovery, my commitment to strength, hope, and recovery determines what I say or do. That's beautiful. Thank you. But here's the deal. In codependency, my fear of your rejection determines what I say or do. In recovery, my commitment to my authenticity, to my relationship, to myself determines what I say or do. My commitment to myself. And you could put that one line under any of these. Because living in fear of rejection is the catalyst for shape-shifting and eating away at our own authenticity, eating away at our self-trust when we determine how we're going to behave, act, or show up out of fear of being rejected. This is where you all got to dig deep. You got to question the voices in your head that have been telling you you're not good enough, you're not beautiful enough, you're not smart enough, you're not funny enough, you're not enough, you don't fit into the mold, you're different. You're just going to be rejected. It's not safe for you to be yourself. Okay, this is where you got to dig real deep and you got to find the courage. And this is where I would invite you all to read the 4 agreements because those agreements really helped me find the courage to be myself. In codependency, how we feel about ourselves, little situations, how we move through the world is a reflection of the people around us. When we're in a recovery place, when we're in a place where we're healing from this work, our world revolves around awareness, compassionate awareness, and conscious choices. We consciously choose in every moment. That moment I was walking up to the wedding and my body went into fight or flight and I started to panic about the red dress. I consciously knew what was happening. I consciously knew that was a codependent behavior and a codependent way of thinking. And I consciously took a breath, came into my body, and I consciously said and believed that I can trust myself and I love myself and my red dress. I wanted to put the F word right before that. Just get a little spicy, but I didn't. These are all practices of self-trust. You cannot trust yourself if you don't give yourself an opportunity to be seen by yourself. By yourself. Let your authenticity shine for you, even if you have to do it in these quiet, cornered ways. Let it shine for you, and then you start letting it shine in the world, and it's going to be scary. Have the courage. You can do it. Use these tools. And I really want to know that we have so many amazing people are listening from actually all over the world. I can see that on the back end of my podcast software. I would really love to hear from you. if you could please do me a favor, it could just be like one email and say, hey, I'm listening and this was helpful. Or, hey, can you please talk about this? Or, I tried this tool and I really loved it. I really want to connect with you. And we have the Thursday meeting on the last Thursday of the month. And most of the women that come to that meeting are a part of my sphere in some way, shape, or form, or they come through friends. I have not had anybody come from the podcast yet, which I think it could be a scary thing to just show up live on Zoom. But I'm asking you also to have the courage to let me see you and to support you. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'll see you on the other side. Thank you for being here with me. If something in this episode landed, if it stirred something in your heart or helped you feel less alone, please give me a rate and review and share with a friend. You can always learn more about me and what I offer at healwithalchemy.com. And if you're longing for community, for live connection and real conversation, I host a free Healing Our Relationships circle on the last Thursday of the month on Zoom. You can join us by downloading my app, HealSpace. It's free, and the circle lives right there in the app, along with my meditations, offerings, and a space to be seen. If you're ready to go deeper, I'll be guiding Awakening Woman, my next in-person retreat in Sedona this November. A weekend of breathwork, healing, ritual, sisterhood. It's a powerful space for transformation, and there are a few spots left. My next Mystery School cohort opens this October. It's a sacred container for women walking a spiritual path. We work with archetypes, shadow, and the divine feminine, and it's a full journey around the sun. 12 months, 6 women. You'll find all the details for retreat, mystery school, and so much more at healwithalchemy.com. Come find the space that speaks to you in your season. I'm so grateful to be here with you, and I'll see you soon.